Welcome in, y'all. We're about to get started here in just a bit. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. All right, here we are, y'all. This is going to be one of those informative astrological lives. So make sure you have something to write with, especially if you are currently not a member of the channel, as this, 333, as this will be an exclusive to the members of the channel after some time. This is one of those lives where, or videos where you can actually come back to this moment and it can assist you with analyzing whatever it is you have going on. Doesn't have to be from the dates that you see there of July 19th to the 26th. So if you're new, welcome. I am Goddess High Priestess Empress Alba La Pantera. Shout out to my returning subscribers and major shout out to the members of the channel. As you're coming in, let me know where you're tuning in from, whether it's within the chat itself or if you're watching this on the replay within the comment section. And share your sun, moon, and rising in the chat because I'm excited to see who's joining, because today's conversation is one where, you know, it's been in preparation for some time, especially with the certain transit that we have right now that hasn't happened in over a century. So, if you're someone who follows astrology and you're familiar with Mercury retrograde, eclipses, Saturn returns, or Pluto changing signs, you're going to enjoy this live, I'm pretty sure, because those cycles are very significant. However, today's conversation, it reaches beyond a single planetary transit because we're basically right now exploring so much more, something much larger, a rare configuration where multiple long-term planetary cycles converge at nearly the same moment. This isn't about fear, catastrophe, or sensational headlines designed to create anxiety. It's more so about recognizing an extraordinary moment in collective evolution and understanding how each of us participates within it. So, before we begin, subscribe if you enjoy astrology that explores the deeper architecture beneath the surface instead of reducing everything to simple keywords. So, share this live with someone who enjoys meaningful astrological conversations because this is the kind of discussion you'll probably revisit, as I mentioned before, several times throughout the coming cycles. So, whenever you're ready to understand how or the way these same planetary movements are interacting with your own birth chart instead of only the collective, I offer personalized astrology reports, tarot and oracle transmissions, and one on one sessions that explore your individual blueprint in depth. Those are available through the link within my bio. So, one of the greatest misconceptions about astrology is the belief that planets make events happen. They don't force outcomes, they more so describe cycles, the timing, developmental seasons, and the quality of time itself. So basically, winter doesn't force a tree to release its leaves. It describes the season in which that process naturally unfolds. So astrology functions in much of the same way. Some cycles invite preservation, others invite release, and some encourage construction, while you also have others that encourage discovery. Every so often, however, multiple long-term planetary cycles synchronize with the remarkable precision, which is what the collective is experiencing now, which is basically describing the beginning of an entirely new chapter, not for individuals, but for humanity itself. That is exactly what we're observing between the 19th and July 26th. So this isn't another collective astrology forecast or another Mercury retrograde conversation or another discussion about Jupiter entering a new sign. Several of the slowest moving planetary intelligences are speaking almost simultaneously, is what we're going into within this video. You can look at this as an orchestra where the violin begins, followed by the cello, then the brass, and then finally the percussion. Each contributes its own voice. Now, occasionally, however, the conductor brings every section together at precisely the same moment, and then suddenly the sound changes, the emotional atmosphere changes, the entire composition becomes greater than the sum of its individual instruments. That's basically the energy right now with Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus at 4 degrees in the signs that they're in. Jupiter is in Leo at 4 degrees, Neptune is in Aries at 4 degrees, Pluto is in Aquarius at 4 degrees, and Uranus is in Gemini at 4 degrees. That is the essence of what we call the BARBAULT basket in astrology. So now this is a configuration that's not just about Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, or Jupiter independently. It's more so about what unfolds when all of them begin communicating together. This is actually named after a French astrologer, André Barbault. Basically, his life work centered on more so collective planetary cycles rather than solely personal astrology. where he even spent decades examining, how long-term planetary rhythms corresponded with historical turning points or societal transformation and the evolution of civilizations. So rather than asking what one planet will relation, Barbault, this astrologer, basically examined how groups of slow moving, which are the outer planets, how the slow moving planets function together as one living system. That's a fundamentally different perspective because civilization really transformed through just one influence alone. Technology evolves, then leadership evolves, economics evolve, culture evolves, communication, spiritual understanding, education, relationships. Every one of those systems influences every other system. And that's precisely what this basket symbolizes. Now, when we look at the word basket itself, it carries a beautiful symbolism. Why? Because a basket gathers, it carries, it protects, it distributes. Yeah, so separate pieces become part of one unified whole. That's exactly what these planetary intelligences are doing. So each governs a different dimension of human experience. Yet during this cycle, they begin reinforcing one another instead of operating independently. So when we look at Neptune, Neptune carries vision. Uranus introduces innovation. Pluto transforms foundations, and Jupiter expands possibilities. Saturn provides structure. Chiron teaches through healing. Mercury organizes perception. Venus is one that refines value. Mars initiates movement. The sun illuminates consciousness, while the moon processes every experience through the body. So instead of competing for attention, these energies begin working together, and that's what changes everything. Because history is rarely rewritten through one isolated idea, because history changes when vision meets communication, when communication meets courage, when courage meets structure, or when structure meets transformation, and when transformation meets leadership. That's the sequence that's unfolding right now. Many people are already sensing it. Some experience it as restlessness, others experience excitement, some notice uncertainty, while you also have others who suddenly recognize they can no longer continue living exactly as they have before. Relationships evolve, career paths shift, creative inspiration emerges unexpectedly, communities reorganize themselves, especially when it comes to the communication. Peep that. People relocate, businesses pivot, previous identities dissolve, not because anything has gone wrong, but because the architecture supporting the previous chapter has fulfilled its purpose. So one of the greatest misunderstandings during these periods such as this is assuming discomfort automatically indicates the incorrect direction. Quite often, discomfort simply reflects the nervous system recognizing that there's an outdated operating system that is shutting down while a new one is coming online. That process isn't always comfortable because growth rarely waits for one, and two, for perfect timing. And transformation seldom announces itself politely as well. So sometimes, a lot of these changes can arrive through a conversation, through a realization, an opportunity, or even an ending. Regardless of the form it takes, the invitation remains the same. So now it's putting you in a position to become compatible with the future that is already beginning to emerge. That's why this conversation is unfolding at a slower pace. Racing through planetary positions misses the deeper intelligence each one carries. Once you understand that intelligence, you begin recognizing its expression within your own life. 344 right now. 444 depending on where you're located. Recognition creates conscious participation instead of, unconscious reactions. And that's where astrology becomes profoundly practical. So throughout this message, we'll explore each of these planetary intelligences, while we'll also examine the Sabian symbols associated with every degree. We'll study Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Chiron, the Sun, and the Moon, and then bring every zodiac sign into the conversation after we do that, so that way y'all can get an understanding how this collective cycle may express itself through your own chart. Although the sky belongs to everyone, no two birth charts experience the same celestial weather in exactly the same way. So, settle in, grab your notebook, pour yourself a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you got going on. Take a deep breath and prepare to step into one of the most fascinating astrological conversations of this year, darling, okay? Aries, we starting with you first. Okay. Let me see if we can it froze on 1704. That could be relevant here. 1704. We're gonna start with Aries. But I literally looked at the timer, and it was at one time. It was at 1704. That shit looked as though it was stuck on 1704. Okay. Aries. So this cycle begins with you because the basket itself opens through your sign. So between July 19th and the 26th, Aries, you're standing at the threshold of a new chapter. And the question isn't whether change is happening. The question is how consciously you'll participate in it. Neptune at 4 degrees of your sign, Aries, carries the Sabian symbol of a triangle with wings, which is a profound image reminding you that everything you've built within yourself over the past several years has actually reached a point where it is no longer meant to remain stationary. Because the triangle represents the stability you've earned, through your experiences, your resilience, your discipline, your wisdom, and every lesson that has strengthened your character up to this point. So the wings reveal that stability isn't the destination. Okay, Aries, stability isn't the destination. Now, some of you may start saying, but just listen, just listen. The wings reveal that stability isn't the destination. It's the platform from which you now take flight, though. This isn't about abandoning your foundation. It's about allowing your foundation to carry you into territory you've never explored before. Because many of you Aries have spent far longer preparing than you realize. And what once felt unfinished is becoming ready for expression. Because as Neptune inspires movement, Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo introduces another layer through the Sabian symbol, rock formations tower over a deep canyon. Jupiter, as we know, expands whatever possesses substance. And Leo reminds you that true leadership is measured not by attention, but by contribution. The canyon within that Sabian symbol, Leo 4 degrees, so it will be the next, when you're looking at Sabian symbols, it'll be the number after the degrees, so this is Leo 5. The canyon represents every challenge you've survived, every disappointment that refined your perspective, every victory that strengthened your confidence, and every experience that quietly carved your character into something capable of carrying greater responsibility. Those towering rock formations didn't appear overnight, nor will the legacy you're building. So from the 1926, from the 19 to the 26 is asking you to reprocess within your thoughts beyond immediate success and begin asking yourself what you're creating that could continue serving others long after today. Aries is naturally gifted at initiating new paths, but Jupiter is encouraging you to develop the consistency, that transforms bold beginnings into enduring achievements. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini brings the Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page, which is shifting your attention toward communication. During this period, conversations become catalyst, Aries. A single idea, introduction, collaboration, or unexpected discussion could redirect your future in ways that only become obvious months or even years later. Uranus isn't simply introducing new information. It's reorganizing the way you process your thoughts. You may notice yourself questioning assumptions you've carried for years, or suddenly recognize opportunities that previously seemed invisible. Because Gemini governs learning, teaching, writing, technology, networking, and the exchange of ideas, making this an extraordinary time to speak with authenticity, because your words have momentum now, Aries. And the conversations you begin could extend far beyond the moment in which they are spoken. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket with the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. Now, this image itself beautifully captures where many of you Aries placements currently stand, where leadership is no longer something waiting somewhere in your future. It's asking you to become part of your present. Because Pluto reminds you that genuine leadership isn't built upon having every answer. It's built upon accepting responsibility for what you've remembered from the process of unlearning to then learn something about more so remembrance, and allowing that wisdom to benefit something greater than yourself. Because this symbol also reminds you that you're not beginning from nothing, Aries. Whether your thought process of ancestors is, literal lineage, guides, teachers, or the accumulated wisdom of humanity, you're building upon foundations established long before your arrival. So your task isn't to repeat the past or reject it completely. Your task, Aries, is to carry forward what remains valuable while creating something uniquely your own. Now, the support and transits even deepen this invitation for you as well, with Saturn moving through your sign, Aries, strengthening your relationship with discipline, commitment, and personal responsibility. You may notice that life is becoming less interested in what excites you momentarily and more intrigued in what you're willing to sustain over time. Because Saturn isn't restricting your fire, it's teaching you the ways to direct it with precision. At the same time, Mercury retrograde in Cancer is encouraging reflection around your emotional foundation, your relationship with family, your understanding of belonging, the stories you've inherited about yourself. Old memories or familiar patterns may resurface, not to keep you attached to them, but to reveal how much you've already outgrown. Venus in Virgo quietly refines your daily routines, which is encouraging you to recognize that extraordinary futures are built through consistent habits rather than isolated moments of inspiration. With Mars in Gemini, your ruling planet Mars in the sign of Gemini accelerates your curiosity, which therefore brings multiple opportunities of engagement, connection, collaboration. Although it also asks you to remain focused rather than, scattering your energy across too many directions at once. Now, professionally for you, Aries, this basket encourages visibility rooted in substance. Whether you're building a business, teaching, creating, leading a team, or sharing your expertise publicly. Aries, you're entering a period where, your willingness to be seen becomes part of your contribution. Financially, you're being encouraged to invest in what compounds over time rather than what provides only immediate satisfaction. In matters of relationships, Aries, you're discovering which connections generally support the person you're becoming, which have quietly depended upon an older version of you remaining unchanged. Spiritually, you're recognizing that courage isn't always dramatic. Sometimes courage is choosing alignment over familiarity, speaking honestly and transparently instead of remaining comfortable, or stepping into a responsibility you sense calling you for years. If there's one message for Aries, it's the following. From the 19th to the 26th of this month, stop measuring your readiness by the absence of uncertainty. Because the basket isn't asking you to know every step before you begin. Neptune has already given your foundation wings, per se. And Jupiter is showing that your experiences have prepared you for something lasting. Uranus is placing transformative conversations directly in your path, while Pluto is revealing that your leadership carries value precisely because it has been shaped by everything you've already lived through. So from the 19th to the 26th, it isn't simply about beginning something new. It's about recognizing the person standing here today has become capable, Aries, of building the future that the version of you from a few years ago could only imagine. That's your message, Aries. Taurus, I'll have these times up. Now for you, Taurus, while Aries is remembering how to begin, you are remembering how to stabilize what truly matters. This basket is asking you to redefine security from the inside out. Because for quite some time, many of you have been evaluating your relationship with work, money, your body, your values, and the structures that have given you a sense of certainty. So from the 19th to the 26th, it reveals that true stability isn't created by resisting change. It's created by becoming so rooted within yourself that change no longer feels as though something, it's feeling as though that something is capable of uprooting you. Because the flow of the sky right now is inviting you to move beyond simply preserving what you've built and toward consciously cultivating what will continue nourishing your life for years to come. So for you, Taurus, the Neptune's Sabian symbol, triangle with wings, speaks to you differently than it does Aries. The triangle represents the foundation you spent years constructing through patience, persistence, and practical effort. The wings remind you that the foundation, or that a foundation, isn't meant to become a prison. Some of you have become so committed to maintaining stability that you've unconsciously limited your own growth, Taurus. You waited until every detail felt certain before taking the next step. Yet this transit from the 19th to the 26th reminds you that stability and expansion aren't opposites. A tree remains rooted while continuing to grow toward the sky. Your life can do the same. What you've built has reached a point where it can support greater movement without sacrificing its integrity. Jupiter and Leo, symbolized by rock formations tower over a deep canyon. This is asking you to process these thoughts in regards to the terms of legacy rather than immediate comfort. Because Taurus, you naturally understand the value of patience. And Jupiter amplifies that gift by encouraging you to create something with lasting significance. This may be a business, a creative endeavor, a financial strategy, a home, or a way of living that reflects your deepest values rather than temporary trends. The canyon beneath those towering formations represents for you every lesson you've accumulated through perseverance. None of your experiences have been wasted, Taurus. Every challenge has carved a greater wisdom into your character. And now Jupiter is asking you to trust that the very experiences you once questioned have become the foundation of the greatest strength, of your greatest strength. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini carries the Sabian symbol of a radical magazine, displays a sensational front page. And this is particularly meaningful because Uranus has been reshaping your relationships with identity, resources, and values for several years. New ideas around money, work, communication, technology, and personal worth continue emerging. And you're being asked, Taurus, to remain open to the possibilities that may initially feel unfamiliar. Because for you, Taurus, the greatest opportunities during this period may arrive through conversations, educational pursuits, networking, or engaging with an entirely new way of creating value. Because the future isn't asking you, to abandon your practical nature. It's more so asking you to apply the practicality to opportunities that didn't exist a decade ago. So stay curious, because some of the conversations you have during the 19th to the 26th may quietly redirect the trajectory of your life. With Pluto in Aquarius, represented by the Sabian symbol, a council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. That's inviting you to reconsider the meaning of success itself. Because for many of you Tauruses, you have inherited beliefs about achievement, security, and responsibility from previous generations. And Pluto is gently asking which of those beliefs still serve your evolution and which have simply become habits repeated without examination. Honoring the wisdom of the past doesn't require recreating the past. Instead, you're invited to carry forward what has enduring value while also allowing outdated structures to transform. Leadership for you now, Taurus, looks less controlling when it comes to outcomes and more of a becoming of a steady example of integrity, consistency, and authentic value. With Saturn in Aries, this reinforces this message by asking where your ambitions require stronger structure, especially over these next 2 years. Rather than rushing into every opportunity, Taurus, Saturn encourages intentional progress built through discipline and consistent effort. Mercury retrograde in Cancer is going to bring up, or may have brought up, memories, family conversations, or old emotional narratives back into awareness, particularly those that are connected to safety, belonging, and self-worth. So instead of seeing these moments as setbacks, recognize them as opportunities to consciously rewrite stories that no longer reflect who you've become. Because with Venus in Virgo, it's going to support refinement in your daily routines, relationships, and creative expression, reminding you that excellence grows from repeated care rather than occasional intensity. With Mars in Gemini, This is increasing activity within your financial world and your decision-making process, which is also encouraging thoughtful flexibility rather than rigid certainty. Chiron in your sign, Taurus, it continues one of the deepest lessons available to you. Because Taurus, healing for you isn't merely about recovering from past experiences. It's about recognizing that your value has never depended on external validation, possessions, titles, or approval. So as this basket unfolds between the 19th and the 26th of this month, many of you Tauruses will discover that, genuine abundance with trusting yourselves enough to build lives aligned with your authentic values instead of inherited expectations. That realization becomes the foundation upon which everything else can grow. Now, Taurus, career-wise, matters may become especially significant during this period of the 19th to the 26th of July, with opportunities emerging that ask you to combine your reliability with a greater innovation. So don't assume that staying comfortable guarantees stability, Taurus. Sometimes the most secure path is the one that evolves alongside changing circumstances. Relationships are also undergoing refinement. Notice who supports your continued growth without asking you to become smaller for their comfort. Because the healthiest connections during this cycle are going to be built upon mutual respect, shared values, and a willingness to evolve together, Taurus. Your greatest opportunity between July 19th and July 26th is recognizing that stability is no longer defined by standing still. Stability is becoming someone capable of remaining centered while life continues to expand around you. The greatest challenge will be resisting the temptation to cling to familiar structures simply because they're familiar. So from July 19th to the 26th, is asking you to trust that the roots you've cultivated over many years are, finally strong enough to support new branches. For some of you, this may have to include your next business move, relationship, or just your lifestyle. It requires a flight, because I just sensed the popping of the ears as if somebody was on a flight. Taking it to higher heights, Taurus, I see you. Because as Neptune inspires movement, Jupiter is expanding purpose, and Uranus is introducing fresh possibilities, while Pluto transforms any long-held assumptions, and Saturn is strengthening your foundation, while Chiron restores your relationship with your own worth. So you'll discover that security has never been about preventing change, Taurus. It has always been about becoming, the kind of person who can flourish through it. That is your message for this vibe, Taurus. Gemini. This energy of the basket for you, Gemini, is actually speaking directly to one of your greatest gifts, communication. Gemini, between July 19th and the 26th, you're literally standing at the intersection of ideas, conversations, innovation, and it may feel as though the pace of life accelerates dramatically, Gemini. New information is arriving quickly. Introductions are happening unexpectedly. Opportunities emerge through discussions that initially seemed ordinary. The common thread running through this entire period for you, Gemini, is that your words carry unusual influence. What you choose to engage with, teach, write, share, and discuss, Gemini, now it has the potential to shape your future far beyond just the 19th to the 26th. Because the sky for you is reminding you that communication isn't merely the exchange of information, it's one of the primary ways reality itself is constructed. That's how deep the energy of your greatest gifts is asking you to connect with, or the way to connect with it, as one of the primary ways reality itself is constructed. Communication, your greatest gift, Gemini. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries opens your journey through the Sabian symbol of a triangle with wings. Now, for you, Gemini, this symbol suggests that your ideas are becoming ready for movement, where you've gathered knowledge, explored possibilities, asked questions, and accumulated experiences that have strengthened your understanding. Now the triangle develops wings, indicating that what you've engaged with is meant to leave the realm of theory and become something living. Perhaps this is a business, a course, a book, a podcast, a creative project, or a conversation you've postponed having. Neptune is encouraging you to trust inspiration while allowing action to flow or follow through naturally. Because your imagination at this point, Gemini, isn't asking to remain inside your mind. It has a great desire to become visible within the world. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo, represented by the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon, reminds you that while curiosity opens many doors, lasting influence comes from depth. Because Gemini often enjoys exploring multiple interests or intrigues, but Jupiter is gently encouraging you to choose the ideas that deserve long-term commitment, Gemini. The canyon within that Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon. The canyon for you symbolizes every experience that has deepened your understanding, while the towering rock formations represents the enduring wisdom that emerges when knowledge is applied consistently over time. This isn't the cycle from the 19th to the 26th, Gemini, to underestimate your expertise, because this is a moment where others may naturally seek your perspective, your guidance, Gemini, or ability to explain complex ideas in ways that are accessible and engaging. Because Jupiter is also expanding your capacity to educate, to inspire, to connect diverse perspectives into something meaningful. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini in your sign carries your sign's Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page, making this one of the most personally significant energies within the entire basket, because Uranus has always been associated with awakening, innovation, originality, and breakthroughs. And in your sign, Gemini, those breakthroughs arrive through thought itself. So you may find yourself questioning assumptions you've carried for years, discovering entirely new ways of approaching familiar situations, or encountering technologies and ideas that dramatically expand your perspective. This isn't change for the sake of change for you, Gemini. It's evolution through understanding. Conversations become catalysts, books become turning points. A single sentence may completely alter the way you perceive your future. So, Gemini, pay close attention to what repeatedly captures your curiosity, because Uranus often introduces tomorrow's direction through today's fascination for you. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the story with the console of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. For you, this symbol beautifully illustrates your role as a bridge between wisdom and innovation, because you, Gemini, you naturally gather information, while Aquarius seeks to improve collective systems. So Pluto in Aquarius, okay, is asking you to communicate in ways that preserves what is timeless, while remaining open to what is emerging, because you're not simply here to repeat existing knowledge, Gemini. You are here to translate it for a changing world. Whether you're teaching, writing, guiding, creating content, building communities, or simply having meaningful conversations, Gemini, your ability to connect ideas becomes one of the greatest contributions during this period. The supporting transits strengthen these themes for you as well, Gemini. With Saturn in Aries, it encourages disciplined action rather than scattered enthusiasm, reminding you that brilliant ideas become influential only when they are consistently developed. Mercury, your ruling planet in the sign of Cancer and retrograde, invites reflection around personal values, emotional narratives, and the way your inner dialogue shapes your external communication. With Venus in Virgo, encouraging organization, which is helping you, to refine your environment, improve your routines, and create practical systems that support your creativity. Mars moving through your sign significantly increases your energy, your curiosity, and your desire to engage with the world. But it also reminds you to avoid dispersing your attention across too many directions, Gemini, because your greatest breakthroughs will come through focused curiosity rather than endless activity. Now, for you, Gemini, professionally, this is an extraordinary time for communication based work, education, technology, networking, marketing, writing, public speaking, any type of collaborative projects. Financially, opportunities may arrive through information, partnerships, or intellectual contributions rather than traditional pathways alone. In matters of relationships, Gemini, from the 19th to the 26th, authentic conversations becomes the foundation for a deeper connection. While spiritually, you're discovering that every thought you consistently entertain eventually becomes part of the reality you experience. So the basket is revealing to you, Gemini, that your voice is more than a personal gift. Your voice is a creative instrument capable of shaping collective understanding, Gemini. So as this cycle unfolds from the 19th to the 26th, Gemini, make sure you are speaking with intention, remain curious, and never underestimate, the profound impact that one authentic conversation can have on the direction of your life, Gemini. Okay? We're going to Cancer. Cancer. This particular cycle between the 19th of July and the 26th, it's inviting you to recognize that your greatest strength isn't simply your ability to feel deeply. As we get to a water sign, let me get me a sip of water. So again, Cancer, this cycle invites you to recognize that your greatest strength, once again, isn't simply your ability to feel deeply. It's your ability to transform emotion into wisdom, Cancer. Between July 19th and the 26th, the basket encourages you to step out of familiar emotional patterns and into a deeper relationship with your own inner authority. So, Cancer, you may notice memories resurfacing, meaningful conversations returning, or long-standing questions about home, family, identity, and belonging asking for your attention, Cancer. This isn't the past attempting to reclaim you, though. It's the past offering one final opportunity to extract its wisdom before you continue forward. Basically, for you, Cancer, the heavens are showing you that emotional maturity isn't forgetting where you've been. It's understanding the way your experiences have prepared you for where you're going. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries begins your journey through the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. And this symbol speaks beautifully to you, Cancer, because Cancer, you've spent years quietly building an inner foundation that many people around you may never fully recognize. Through every challenge, disappointment, celebration, and lesson, you've developed emotional resilience that now serves as your greatest strength, Cancer. The triangle for you represents this stability. The wings reveal what you've built internally that is ready to become visible externally. So your compassion, your intuition, Cancer, your creativity and emotional intelligence are no longer meant to remain private resources. They're becoming gifts that naturally influence your career, your leadership, and your contribution to others. So you may feel called to step into greater visibility, Cancer, not by abandoning your authentic nature, but more so, trusting that sensitivity and strength can exist together. Where your sensitivity is actually one of your strongest strengths. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo, having left your sign, it's carrying the Sabian symbol of rock formations tower over a deep canyon, which is asking you, Cancer, to consider what you've been building over the course of your entire life. Some of it may have cost you, as I almost said cost. However, every emotional experience has shaped your perspective, Cancer. Every relationship has taught you something about yourself. Every season of uncertainty has carved greater depths into your understanding of human nature. Now, the canyon within that Sabian symbol, rock formations tower over a deep canyon. The canyon for you represents the richness of lived experience, while the towering formations remind you that true confidence isn't built through avoiding difficulty, but through allowing difficulty to become wisdom, Cancer. Because Jupiter is encouraging you to recognize your own value, whether through your work, your creativity, your leadership, or your relationships. So this is a period where your gifts deserve greater recognition because they're rooted in genuine experience rather than performance. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces the Sabian symbol of Radical magazine displays a sensational front page. And for you, Cancer, this energy encourages profound shifts in your inner world. So unexpected realizations may emerge through dreams, quiet reflection, meaningful conversations, or information that suddenly connects pieces of your life in entirely new ways. You may discover that beliefs you've quietly carried for years no longer reflect the person you've become. Because Uranus doesn't simply bring new information, it reorganizes perception itself. So for you, Cancer, this often means understanding yourself differently before the external world begins changing. The conversations happening within your own mind becomes just as significant as those happening around you, Cancer. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the story through a council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. For you, Cancer, this symbol may feel especially meaningful because you naturally carry a strong connection to family, ancestry, memory, and emotional inheritance. And Pluto is asking you to distinguish between inherited wisdom and inherited limitation. Which traditions are strengthening your future? Which emotional patterns have quietly completed their purpose? And knowing that this isn't about rejecting your roots either. It's about Recognizing that honoring your lineage sometimes means becoming the generation that transforms any and all long-standing patterns into healthier expressions, Cancer. Because leadership for you often begins at home, with yourself, with your family, your community, the emotional environment you create for others. The supporting transits reinforce this deeply personal work. With Mercury retrograde moving through your sign, Cancer, it places your inner dialogue directly in focus. Therefore, it's basically encouraging you to revisit old beliefs about identity, belonging, and self-expression with greater compassion and honesty and transparency. Saturn in Aries reminds you that emotional wisdom becomes most powerful when it's paired with practical action. Venus in Virgo is encouraging healthier routines, clearer communication, and greater attention to your physical well-being, while Mars in Gemini increases mental activity, making rest, reflection, and discernment especially valuable. Chiron in Taurus continues strengthening your understanding of self-worth, reminding you that your value isn't determined by how much you care for others, but by how fully you care for yourself. So for you, Cancer, between the 19th and the 26th, professionally, may bring recognition for work you've quietly developed over time, or opportunities to step into greater responsibility through your natural ability to support and guide others. Financially, long-term planning becomes increasingly important because, well, especially when decisions align with both your practical necessities and your personal values. In relationships, emotional honesty and transparency becomes the bridge toward deeper intimacy, while spiritually, Cancer, you're discovering that your intuition grows stronger whenever you stop questioning its quiet voice. So from the 19th to the 26th, the basket reminds you that your emotional depth, Cancer, isn't something to protect from the world. It's one of the very qualities the world currently needs. And as this cycle unfolds, trust the foundation you've built within yourself, Cancer, because the wings are appearing because you've become ready to carry that wisdom into a larger purpose. Next up, we got Leo. Leo, the basket, 19th of July to 26th, shines directly on your creative fire, your leadership, your ability to inspire others through authentic self-expression. So the heavens are asking you, Leo, to process your thoughts beyond recognition and begin focusing on legacy. This isn't a cycle about being seen for the sake of visibility. It's about allowing your presence, your creativity, and your leadership to become something that genuinely improves the lives of those around you. Leo, you may notice an increasing desire to create, teach, lead, guide, or share your gifts more openly. That's not accidental. That's the sky that is amplifying your natural capacity to illuminate possibilities for others. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries opens your story with the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. This image reminds you, Leo, that confidence isn't meant to remain internal. Everything you've remembered from learning and then unlearning, every challenge you've overcome, every lesson that has strengthened your character has prepared you to move beyond previous limitations. Leo, the triangle represents the strength of your foundation. Within this Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings, and the wings for you symbolize the freedom that becomes available once you trust that foundation completely. Because for you, Leo, this may feel as though, receiving permission to stop waiting for the perfect moment. Your creativity has matured, Leo. Your perspective has matured. Your leadership has matured. Now, the invitation is to allow those qualities to move beyond potential and become visible contributions, Leo. Because Jupiter at 4 degrees in your sign, it carries the Sabian symbol, rock formations tower over a deep canyon, making this one of the defining influences of this cycle from the 19th to the 26th of July, with Jupiter magnifying everything it touches. And within your sign, it expands confidence, creativity, generosity, leadership, and purpose. Yet, the symbol itself offers an important reminder for you specifically, Leo. The towering rock formations didn't become extraordinary because they sought attention. They became extraordinary because they endured the shaping influence of time. Every success you celebrated, every challenge you survived has contributed to the leader you're becoming today, Leo. This isn't about proving yourself. It's about recognizing that your experiences have already qualified you to build something lasting. Whether you're creating art, leading a business, raising a family, teaching, guiding, or developing new ideas, Leo, Jupiter asks you to focus on what will continue serving others long after today's applause have faded. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces a radical magazine, displays a sensational front page, which is bringing the energy of exciting opportunities through community, collaboration, technology, education, and communication, Leo. So conversations for you may introduce unexpected partnerships. Innovative ideas can reshape long-term goals. Your network may expand rapidly through shared interests or creative endeavors. Uranus encourages you to remain curious, flexible, and willing to explore unfamiliar possibilities, Leo. Some of the people entering your life now may become important collaborators for years to come. So don't dismiss unconventional ideas, Leo, simply because they arrive from unexpected sources. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket through a council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. For you, Leo, this symbol brings a significant transformation to relationships and leadership. So you're remembering that genuine influence isn't measured by authority alone, but by the ability to empower others, Leo. Because leadership evolves from personal achievement into collective contribution. While Pluto asks you to examine the way you share power, the way you build relationships, and the way your presence encourages growth in people around you. Because some relationships may deepen considerably, Leo, while others naturally evolve as both individuals continue growing or transforming, with Pluto in Aquarius, which is your reflective sign or the sign on the other side of you. The focus shifts from admiration to mutual respect, Leo. The supporting transits that strengthen this remarkable period from the 19th of July to the 26th, Saturn in Aries provides discipline and direction for your expanding vision, ensuring that, your ambitions develop through steady effort rather than temporary excitement. Mercury retrograde in Cancer, so therefore it's in your 12th house. It's encouraging quiet reflection, reminding you that meaningful leadership includes moments of solitude, Leo, where deeper understanding develops beneath the surface. With Venus in Virgo, this is refining your relationship with resources, helping you make thoughtful decisions that support long-term stability. Mars in Gemini energizes social relationships, collaborations, engagement, and communication, which is also creating opportunities to connect with people who share your vision. Chiron in Taurus continues healing your relationship with achievement and public responsibility, which is basically helping you, recognize that your worth has never depended solely upon external success. Professionally for you, Leo, the 19th, 17th could be significant. The 19th to the 26th of July for you is one of the strongest periods for stepping into greater visibility, launching creative work, accepting leadership opportunities, or expanding projects that reflect your authentic purpose. Financially for you, Leo, investments in your talents, education, or any type of long-term vision may prove especially valuable. In matters of relationships, generosity balanced with mutual respect creates stronger foundations, while spiritually, you, Leo, are discovering that your light becomes brightest when it's shared with sincerity rather than performance. So the energy of the basket from the 19th to the 26th of July reminds you that you were never meant to shrink your gifts, Leo. You were meant to refine them until they became strong enough to serve something larger than yourself. So as this cycle unfolds, Leo, lead with courage, create with intention, and remember that the greatest legacy isn't built through being admired. It's built through leaving the world more enriched because you are willing to fully express who you are, Leo. Next up, my darling, we have Virgo. Where we at? Virgo, this basket meets you in a way that feels both familiar and transformative because your natural gift has always been refinement. You, Virgo, you instinctively notice what can be improved, strengthened, clarified, or made more efficient. Between July 19th and the 26th, however, the heavens invite you to expand that gift beyond solving problems, though, and into recognizing possibilities. So this isn't simply a cycle to fix what's broken, Virgo. It's a cycle to recognize what has quietly become ready to flourish. So you may notice yourself, Virgo, stepping into greater responsibility, therefore becoming more visible through your work, or realizing that the systems you've been carefully building are now capable of supporting something much larger. So the basket energy is asking you to trust that your preparation has not gone unnoticed by life itself. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries begins your journey through the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. And for you, Virgo, this illustrates the relationship between structure and inspiration. The triangle for you represents the discipline, organization, wisdom, and practical experience you've cultivated over years of dedicated effort. The wings for you remind you that preparation eventually reaches a point where it must become expression. Sometimes Virgo waits until every detail feels perfect before allowing others to see the finished work. Neptune, however, gently dissolves that tendency by showing you that growth continues through participation, not endless refinement. So that project, business, relationship, or idea you've been carefully developing may now be asking to leave the planning stage and enter the world. Progress becomes more important than perfection, Virgo, because movement reveals lessons that preparation alone never can. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo, carrying the Sabian symbol, rock formations tower over a deep canyon. This is reminding you that mastery develops through time rather than speed. And for you, the canyon reflects every challenge you've solved, every skill you've patiently developed, every season where your commitment quietly shaped your expertise. So Jupiter is encouraging you to recognize that your accumulated knowledge, Virgo, has become a resource not only for yourself, but for others as well. So you may find people naturally seeking your guidance, your analytical abilities, or your capacity to bring order where others see confusion, Virgo. So professionally, this is an excellent period for sharing your expertise more openly, whether through teaching, guiding, consulting, writing, or leadership. Virgo, your experience carries increasing value because it's grounded in practical understanding rather than theory alone. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces the Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page. Now, this is the energy that stimulates your professional life and your relationship with innovation. Because Virgo, you appreciate love methods that work. Now, Uranus encourages you to remain open to entirely new approaches, technology, education, communication. Unexpected collaborations may introduce opportunities that initially challenge familiar routines, but they ultimately strengthen your long-term vision. So information becomes transformative during this period, specifically 19th to the 26th of this month. A conversation, a course, an article, or idea may significantly influence the direction of your career or purpose. Rather than assuming that new automatically means unstable, Uranus is asking you to evaluate fresh perspectives through discernment instead of resistance. Because your ability to integrate innovation with practicality becomes one of your greatest strengths. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes your story through the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. Now, this symbol speaks deeply to you, Virgo, in matters of your relationship with service. Pluto is inviting you to recognize that your work contributes to something larger than immediate results. A resort could be of significance. Every system you improve, Virgo, every person you assist, every solution you create becomes part of a broader legacy. So, Virgo, you may also notice transformations in your daily routines, your health practices, your relationship with productivity itself. Because Pluto asks whether the way you've been working truly supports the life you're attempting to build. Productivity without purpose eventually becomes exhaustion. Service without boundaries becomes depletion eventually. So this cycle between the 19th and the 26th of July encourages a healthier balance where your dedication strengthens both your contribution and your well-being. The supporting transits beautifully reinforce these themes, with Saturn in Aries encouraging greater emotional maturity around shared responsibilities and long-term commitments, while Mercury retrograde in Cancer invites reflection within social groups, communities, and the people who influence your thought process. Venus moving through your own sign is enhancing your natural grace, discernment, and your appreciative for meaningful simplicity, making this an ideal moment time to refine your appearance, your environment, your relationships, and your priorities, Virgo. Mars in Gemini energizes your ambitions and increases professional momentum, although it reminds you that sustained focus will accomplish far more than consistent multitasking. Chiron in Taurus continues expanding your understanding of wisdom, which is therefore encouraging you to trust your lived experience as much as formal knowledge. Now, professionally, for you, Virgo, This basket supports leadership through competence rather than performance. Financially, thoughtful planning and long-term strategy become increasingly rewarding. In matters of relationships, for you, Virgo, it's all about that mutual respect, reliability, honest, transparent communication that deepen connections. While spiritually, you, Virgo, you're discovering that service becomes most powerful when it grows from genuine alignment rather than obligation. So the basket reminds you that excellence isn't measured by flawlessness. And as this cycle unfolds, allow your preparation to become participation. So the work you've quietly been perfecting is ready to support something much greater than you may currently imagine, Virgo. Next up, we have Libra. Libra. This basket invites you into one of the most significant periods of personal recalibration you've experienced in quite some time. Between July 19th and the 26th, you're discovering that balance isn't achieved by keeping everyone comfortable, Libra. True balance emerges when your external relationships begin reflecting your internal truth. So throughout this cycle between the 19th and the 26th, you may notice important developments surrounding partnerships, collaboration, purpose, and the way you share your gifts with the world. Decisions that once felt difficult begin becoming clearer because you're no longer measuring them solely, through the lens of harmony. You're beginning to recognize that authentic harmony can only exist where honesty and transparency already live. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries introduces the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings activating your relationship 7th house sector in a profoundly meaningful way. The triangle represents the strength, trust, and mutual respect required for healthy relationships to flourish. The wings within the Sabian symbol for you suggest that many of your connections, Libra, are entering a new phase of growth. So some of relationships may deepen through greater authenticity, while others naturally evolve because both people have become different versions of themselves. Because Neptune is basically asking you to release idealized expectations and replace them with genuine presence. Love, social group interactions, and partnerships aren't strengthened by pretending differences don't exist, Libra. They're strengthened by, allowing truth and compassion to coexist. So if new relationships begin during this period, they may carry an unusual sense of shared purpose and mutual inspiration. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo brings the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon. This is expanding your connection to community, creativity, and long-term aspirations. For you, within this Sabian symbol, the canyon represents everything you've experienced through your interaction with others. Every collaboration, every lesson and compromise, every moment that, taught you the importance of both giving and receiving. Jupiter now encourages you to build relationships that aren't simply enjoyable, but enduring. Friendships rooted in shared values become increasingly significant. Creative collaborations may open up unexpected doors. Leadership opportunities, within communities or organizations could naturally emerge because, people recognize your ability to bring diverse perspectives together with the level of grace and fairness that you naturally have, Libra. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces a radical magazine. The Sabian symbol is a radical magazine displays a sensational front page. Now, this is awakening your desire to broaden your perspective. This energy supports education, travel, philosophy, publishing, teaching, and expanding beyond familiar ways of thinking. Conversations with people from different backgrounds or disciplines may completely reshape your understanding of what's possible, Libra. Because Uranus is encouraging intellectual courage rather than remaining comfortable with what you've always believed. You're being invited to explore ideas that challenge and ultimately strengthen your worldview. So that could be a book, a course, someone who's guiding you, or unexpected conversations may become a turning point in your personal development, Libra. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket with the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. So this symbol transforms your relationship with creativity, joy, self-expression, and leadership. Because Pluto is asking you to stop measuring your value through external approval and, begin creating from authentic conviction. Whether that's art, business, teaching, parenting, romance, or personal projects, your originality becomes increasingly important because you aren't here to imitate someone else's path, Libra. Libra, you're here to, contribute something that could only emerge through your unique combination of experiences, wisdom, and perspective. So this may also become a powerful period from the 19th to the 26th of July where you're healing old fears surrounding visibility or self-expression. And fear is one of those energies that blocks the root chakra. So you may be diving deep through this Mercury Cancer retrograde through a period in your life between the ages of 0 and 7. The supporting transits deepen this process beautifully because Saturn in Aries encourages maturity within partnerships, asking both you and others to take greater responsibility for the health of your relationships. Mercury retrograde in Cancer, Libra, it brings reflection around career, public life, and long-term ambitions, helping you reconsider goals that may no longer reflect your evolving values. With Venus in Virgo, this is going to be encouraging quiet self-care, introspection, and releasing emotional patterns that quietly drain your energy before Venus goes into your sign as you are Venusian ruled. Mars in Gemini expands your curiosity and supports education, writing, travel, and meaningful dialogue, while Chiron in continues healing your relationships with trust, vulnerability, and shared resources. So from the 19th to the 26th, professionally, this cycle supports collaborative leadership, diplomacy, negotiation, teaching, any work that brings people together around shared goals. Financially, balanced decision making becomes more valuable than impulsive opportunities. In relationships, authenticity becomes the new definition of harmony. While spiritually, you're discovering that peace isn't created by avoiding conflict. It emerges when your inner and outer worlds finally begin telling the same story. So Libra, the basket reminds you from the 19th to the 26th of July, it reminds you that your greatest contribution isn't simply helping others find balance, Libra. It's demonstrating what authentic balance, the way it actually appears, through the life you're courageously choosing to live. That is for you, Libra. Next up, we have Scorpio. Grab some water. So for you, Scorpio, this basket speaks to your natural understanding that transformation is not an event. It's a process. Between July 19th and the 26th, you're being invited to recognize just how much you've already shed, what you've already rebuilt, the way you're ready to step into a new level of personal authority, Scorpio. So this cycle between the 19th and the 26th, it isn't asking you to become someone different. It's asking you to stop carrying identities, responsibilities, or emotional weights that no longer belong to the person you've become. So you may notice significant developments surrounding home, family, purpose, shared resources, or your relationship with power itself, Scorpio. The heavens are reminding you that true power isn't control over circumstances. True power is the ability to remain centered while circumstances evolve. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries introduces the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. And for you, Scorpio, it's bringing inspiration into your daily life, your work, your relationship with service. Within this Sabian symbol, the triangle for you represents the routines, disciplines, and habits you've steadily developed, while the wings reveal that those daily choices are beginning to elevate your entire life. Scorpio, it's easy to underestimate the significance of small, consistent actions, yet Neptune reminds you that what appears ordinary today may become extraordinary through repetition. You may feel inspired to change your schedule, improve your health, strengthen your skills, or reorganize your work in ways that create far greater freedom later, Scorpio. The dream for you right now isn't separate from your daily life. It's built through your daily life. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo carries the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon, which is bringing Jupiter in Leo is bringing expansion to your career, your public role, and long-term legacy. Every challenge you faced, Scorpio, professionally, has strengthened your ability to lead with wisdom rather than reaction. So within that Sabian symbol, the canyon for you represents the years of experience beneath the surface that others may never fully see. While the towering formations, rock formations, symbolize the reputation that's gradually emerging because of your consistency. So opportunities may arise that place you in greater positions of responsibility, visibility, or influence, because Jupiter encourages you to recognize that you're no longer building only for immediate success. You're building a legacy that reflects your values, your integrity, and your willingness to contribute something meaningful to the world. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini, the Sabian symbol is a radical magazine, displays a sensational front page. This is Uranus energy that is activating, well, that's the Sabian symbol connected to Uranus in Gemini. And it's activating profound shifts around shared resources, trust, intimacy, investment, and emotional transformation. So conversations surrounding finances, partnerships, inheritance, business agreements, or long-term commitments may arrive unexpectedly, because Uranus is encouraging you to approach these developments with openness rather than fear. So new information may completely reshape the way you process your thoughts about security, collaboration, or the exchange of energy with others. So this is an extraordinary period, actually, for you, Scorpio, for psychological breakthroughs. So any type of long-held emotional patterns may suddenly make perfect sense, therefore allowing you to release burdens you've unknowingly carried for years. And specifically for you, Scorpio, go into the link in bio and grab that Reset Your Timeline or Repeat Your Life guide, which can help this particular stage of your life make a whole lot more sense. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket with the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. Pluto, being your modern ruling planet, makes this symbolism especially profound because now for you, Scorpio, transformation begins within your foundation, your home, family dynamics, ancestry, emotional security, and your relationship um, with belonging all becomes areas of significant growth. So this symbol is inviting you, Scorpio, to recognize that you have the ability to honor your lineage while also becoming the person who transforms inherited patterns into healthier expressions. Leadership begins within your own inner world. So as your emotional foundation strengthens, every other area of your life, Scorpio, naturally becomes more stable. The greatest inheritance you can create may not be financially at all. It may be the emotional freedom you cultivate for yourself and future generations. And the supporting transits deepen these things. With Saturn and Aries, this is encouraging disciplined attention to your health routines and professional responsibilities, reminding you that sustainable success grows through consistency rather than intensity. Mercury retrograde in Cancer invites reflection around beliefs, education, travel, spirituality, and the perspectives that shape your understanding of the world. Venus and Virgo strengthens social relationships, collaborations, and community connections, which is bringing supportive relationships into greater focus for you, Scorpio. Mars in Gemini accelerates conversations around finances, investments, and emotional vulnerability, which is encouraging thoughtful communication rather than reactive decisions. And Chiron in Taurus, it continues healing your understanding of partnerships for you. Therefore, teaching that, the healthiest relationships are built upon mutual respect rather than emotional control. So Scorpio, for you, this basket energy from the 19th of July to the 26th of July, professionally, it supports advancement through demonstrated expertise and steady leadership. Financially, for you, long-term investments, thoughtful collaboration, and strategic planning become increasingly rewarding. In matters of relationships, deeper honesty, transparency creates stronger trust. While spiritually, you're discovering that transformation begins or becomes sustainable when it's grounded in self-awareness rather than constant crisis. So Scorpio, the basket reminds you that, your greatest gift has never been your ability to survive endings. It's your ability to create entirely new beginnings from the wisdom those endings revealed. So as this cycle unfolds, Scorpio, trusts the foundation you're rebuilding, because the future isn't asking you to carry your past forever. It's asking you to carry only the wisdom it gave you. Okay? Sagittario, Sagittarius. Sagittarius, the basket awakens your natural desire to explore, expand, and discover what's beyond the horizon. Between July 19th and the 26th, Sagittarius, you're entering a period where possibility feels tangible. Curiosity becomes a guiding force. And the future begins calling you toward experiences that stretch, both your perspective and your potential. So this isn't simply about physical travel, or although some of you may indeed be planning journeys or exploring new places, it's equally about intellectual, spiritual, and personal expansion. Because Sagittarius, the sky is encouraging you to recognize that your next chapter begins the moment you're willing to outgrow the limitations of your previous one. Now, Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries introduces the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. And for you, this is inspiring profound creative expansion, Sagittarius, because the triangle for you would represent the confidence, knowledge, and life experience you've accumulated, while the wings reveal that your creativity, joy, and self-expression are ready to move into entirely new territories. So projects you've quietly imagined, Sagittarius, may suddenly feel ready to begin. Artistic inspirations may increase dramatically. Some of you may feel called to teach, write, create, guide, uh, perform, or simply express yourself with greater authenticity than ever before. Because Neptune reminds you that imagination becomes transformative only when it's given permission to take form. And you're the one that's in charge of that permission, Sagittarius, for it to take form. Jupiter, your ruling planet at 4 degrees of Leo, carries the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon. Jupiter asks you to examine the difference between collecting experiences and extracting wisdom from them. For you, within this Sabian symbol, the canyon symbolizes every adventure, challenge, conversation, and lesson that has expanded your understanding of life. While the towering rock formations represent the enduring philosophy you've built through those experiences. So this cycle may bring opportunities related to education, publishing, travel, teaching, spirituality, or sharing your knowledge with others, where you're discovering that your greatest adventures are no longer measured solely by where you go, but more so by who you become through the journey. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces the Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page, which is bringing unexpected developments through partnerships and significant relationships. Conversations for you, Sagittarius, may introduce exciting collaborations, new perspectives, and people who fundamentally change the direction of your life. So existing relationships may evolve as both individuals continue growing. Uranus encourages flexibility, curiosity, honest, transparent dialogue, reminding you, Sagittarius, that the healthiest partnerships allow both people to continue expanding rather than remaining fixed in previous versions of themselves. So a single conversation for you with someone, Sagittarius, can literally become the beginning of a remarkable new chapter. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket with the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. And this symbol transforms your relationship with communication itself. So for you, Sagittarius, with Pluto at 4 degrees in Aquarius, your words carry increasing influence because they're supported by lived experiences rather than abstract theory. Whether you're teaching, writing, speaking, guiding, creating content, or simply having meaningful conversations, Pluto is encouraging you to recognize that the lasting impact your perspective can have on others. Because you aren't merely sharing information, Sagittarius. You're helping shape understanding. The wisdom you've gathered throughout your life becomes increasingly valuable, especially when it's communicated with love, compassion, clarity, and authenticity. So Sagittarius, the supporting transits reinforce this expansive period as well. For instance, Saturn in Aries is strengthening your creative discipline, which is helping transform inspiration into consistent action. Mercury retrograde right now in Cancer, it encourages reflection around shared resources, trust, emotional vulnerability, and deeper psychological understanding. Venus in Virgo highlights your career and your public reputation, supporting thoughtful leadership and professional refinement. Mars in Gemini energizes your relationships, collaborations, negotiations, and meaningful dialogue. While Chiron in Taurus now continues healing your relationship with work, health, and sustainable daily rhythms. So for you, Sagittarius, 19th to the 26th, the energy of the basket professionally, it's supporting education, publishing, travel, entrepreneurship, coaching, speaking, media, and any work centered around sharing ideas or expanding perspectives. For you, Sagittarius, financially, opportunities may arise through partnerships or long-term vision rather than immediate gratification. In relationships, intellectual connection and shared growth become increasingly important, while spiritually, you're discovering that freedom isn't the absence of commitment. It's the ability to continue growing within the commitments that genuinely reflect your purpose. The basket reminds you that horizons don't exist to limit your vision. They exist to invite you toward the next discovery. So as this cycle unfolds, follow your curiosity with courage, Sagittarius, because the road opening before you isn't asking whether you're qualified to walk it. Sagittarius is asking whether you're willing to keep moving as you do, remembering as you do. Capricorn up next. Capricorn, this basket speaks directly to the architect within you. Throughout your life, Capricorn, you've understood that meaningful achievements aren't built through shortcuts, but through patience, discipline, and consistent effort. So between July 19th and the 26th, however, the heavens invite you to recognize that structure alone is no longer enough. The foundations you've carefully built are ready to support something far more expansive than perhaps you've originally envisioned. So for you, Capricorn, this isn't a period of abandoning responsibility. It's a period of allowing responsibility to become a platform for greater creativity, deeper fulfillment, and more authentic leadership. So Capricorn, you may notice significant developments involving your home life, finances, purpose, relationships, or long-term vision, as the sky is encouraging you to build not only what functions well, but also what genuinely reflects your values. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries introduces the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries for you, Capricorn, is activating your emotional foundation and your relationship with home, family, and inner security. For you, precisely, the triangle within this Sabian symbol represents the stability you've worked diligently to create over many years. Through perseverance, you've built emotional resilience, practical wisdom, and a deepened, dependable foundation that has carried you through numerous seasons of life. The wings now suggest that this stability isn't meant to keep you anchored in familiarity forever. Instead, it becomes the very reason you're capable of expanding into something new. You may feel inspired to redefine what home means, create a healthier environment, strengthen family relationships, relocate, renovate, or simply establish greater emotional freedom within yourself. Because Neptune reminds you that true security isn't measured by how tightly you hold on to the past, but how confidently you carry your foundation wherever life leads you. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo carries the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon, and Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo brings profound expansion to your understanding of shared resources, eighth house matters, trust, transformation, and long-term investments. Within that Sabian symbol, rock formations tower over a deep canyon. Symbolically, the canyon for you represents every experience that has strengthened your wisdom regarding commitment, responsibility, and resilience. The towering formations symbolize the enduring value created through, the years of steady effort. Financially, this may become an important period for long-term planning, investments, business partnerships, or restructuring resources in ways that provide a greater stability for years ahead. Emotionally, Jupiter in Leo is asking you to recognize that allowing others to support you can be just as valuable as your natural ability to support others, Capricorn. Strength isn't diminished through vulnerability. It's often strengthened by it. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces the Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page, which is bringing innovation. Uranus in Gemini, it's bringing innovation into your work, routines, health, and daily responsibilities. Capricorn appreciates efficiency, but Uranus encourages you to reconsider whether your current system truly support the future you're building. Advances in technology, education, communication, or new professional methods may significantly improve the way you work. Conversations with colleagues or unexpected opportunities could reshape your daily responsibilities in ways that initially feel unfamiliar, but ultimately increase both freedom and productivity. Rather than assuming the old way is automatically the best way, Uranus in Gemini invites you to integrate innovation with your natural discipline. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket through the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. And Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius for you has been gradually transforming your relationship with value, income, self-worth, and personal resources. And this symbol deepens that process considerably because you're remembering that your value extends far beyond your accomplishments or productivity. Because for you, Capricorn, true wealth includes wisdom, integrity, experience, relationships, creativity, as well as the ability to contribute meaningfully to others. So this period may also bring important shifts around matters of finances, business, pricing your work, or recognizing, the true worth of your skills. Because Pluto is asking you to stop undervaluing the qualities that have taken years to develop. Because Capricorn, what you've patiently cultivated has become part of your legacy. The supporting transits reinforce these themes beautifully as well for you, Capricorn, with Saturn, your ruling planet in Aries. It's encouraging maturity within your home life and emotional foundations, therefore asking you to build inner stability with the same dedication you've always applied to external achievement. Mercury retrograde in Cancer revisits partnerships and important relationships, which is encouraging honest, transparent communication, reflection, and mutual understanding. Venus in Virgo is harmonizing naturally with your earth sign energy, supporting education, planning, travel, publishing, and expanding your perspective through practical wisdom. Mars in Gemini energizes your work, therefore increasing productivity and mental activity while reminding you that, sustainable progress comes through focused priorities rather than constant busyness. Busy and productive are two different things, Capricorn. Busy gets no signal. You hear me? Chiron in Taurus continues healing your relationships with creativity, joy, and self-expression, which is encouraging you to recognize that fulfillment is not a distraction from success, but an essential part of it. So, the energy of this basket, which is Jupiter, Neptune, Pluto, Aquarius, in their respective signs, all at 4 degrees. Professionally, this energy for you, Capricorn, supports long-term leadership, business development, strategic planning, organizational growth, and projects that are requiring patience and vision. Financially, careful investments and thoughtful restructuring becomes increasingly beneficial. In matters of relationships, trust deepens through honesty, transparency, consistency, and shared responsibility. While spiritually, you're discovering that true authority begins when your external accomplishments become reflections of your internal integrity. So the energy of this basket from the 19th to the 26th reminds you that the strongest mountains were never built overnight. You know you the GOAT. They become enduring through countless seasons of pressure, change, and refinement. So as this cycle unfolds from the 19th to the 26th of July, Capricorn, recognize that you've already become the foundation you've been searching for. Now life is inviting you to build something worthy of standing upon it. Okay? Next up, we have Aquarius. Aquarius, and gratitude for your patience. Aquarius, this basket resonates deeply with your natural orientation toward innovation, collective progress, and envisioning possibilities that others may not recognize yet. So between July 19th and the 26th, Aquarius, you're standing in a remarkable position because Pluto continues moving through your sign while simultaneously participating in this extraordinary planetary conversation. With your modern ruler, the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, but the ancient ruler is Saturn. So you're involved there, as well as Pluto in your sign. So you're involved there as well. So this cycle isn't asking you to imagine a different future. It's asking you to help shape one. So you may notice significant developments surrounding identity, relationships, creativity, technology, community, or your role within the larger collective movements. Because for you, Aquarius, the heavens are encouraging you to recognize that your originality isn't something to hide in order to fit comfortably within existing systems. It's one of the very qualities contributing to the next stage of collective development. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries introduces the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. And Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries is inspiring for you, Aquarius, profound growth through communication, engagement, writing, teaching, and the exchange of ideas. So for you, symbolically speaking, the triangle represents the knowledge, perspective, and intellectual foundation you've steadily developed, while the wings suggest that your ideas are ready to reach a much wider audience, Aquarius. Conversations become opportunities. Education becomes expansion. Communication becomes creation. Whether you're writing, teaching, building a business, creating content, developing technology, or simply sharing your perspective, Neptune in Aries is encouraging you to trust that your ideas possess greater influence than you may currently realize. So, what begins for you, Aquarius, as a simple conversation could easily eventually become something that touches many lives. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo carries the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon. Jupiter in Leo at 4 degrees for you, Aquarius, is bringing significant growth through seventh house matters of partnerships and meaningful relationships. Symbolically speaking, for you, the canyon represents you've everything you've connected to or engaged with when it comes to collaboration, trust, compromise, and mutual respect throughout your life. The towering formations remind you that lasting relationships aren't built upon excitement alone. They're built upon consistency, shared values, and a willingness to continue growing together. So for you, Aquarius, this period may strengthen existing partnerships or introduce new people whose presence significantly influences your future, whether personally or professionally. Jupiter is encouraging you to seek relationships that are rooted in mutual inspiration rather than convenience alone. Now, Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini introduces the Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page, which is Uranus and Gemini, energizing your creativity, originality, and self-expression. Uranus is your modern ruling planet, making this symbolism particularly significant because inspiration may arrive suddenly through conversations, books, technology, travel, or unexpected experiences. Creative breakthroughs become more frequent for you, Aquarius, and ideas that once seem unconventional may suddenly reveal themselves as highly practical. So this is an extraordinary, phenomenal period for artists, educators, entrepreneurs, innovators, content creators, anyone whose work involves communicating new perspectives. As an Aquarius native, because Uranus encourages experimentation, and the future rarely emerges by repeating yesterday's methods. So with that being said, Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius, your sign, completes the basket through the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. So this symbol speaks directly to your own evolution, Aquarius, because Pluto is transforming your identity from the inside out. And Pluto touches upon the deep, sensitive, psychological areas of your life. It's asking you to examine every version of yourself that was shaped primarily by external expectations. Who are you becoming when you no longer organize your life around who others believe you should be, Aquarius? Because you're the sign that says, I know. This isn't rebellion for its own sake either. It's conscious evolution. And the symbol reminds you that, progress doesn't reject wisdom. It literally carries timeless wisdom into new forms. You become both the student and the leader simultaneously, Aquarius. Honoring what remains valuable while, courageously building what has never existed before. You're the type of energy, the sign that start things, and it's important for you, to not seek to be understood or validated when it comes to what it is that you're doing, because everything you do is for people to catch up to. they're not going to get it initially. And the more rooted and grounded you're within that vibration, it's going to help you with the question of who are you becoming when you no longer organize your life around who others believe you should be. The support in transit strengthened this remarkable period for you as well, with Saturn in Aries, which is your ancient ruler. Uranus is the modern ruler. Saturn in Aries encourages discipline, communication, thoughtful decision making, and greater responsibility in the way you share your ideas. While Mercury retrograde in Cancer revisits routines, work, health, and daily responsibilities, which is encouraging practical adjustments that better support your long-term vision. So Venus and Virgo invites deeper trust, emotional honesty, transparency, and thoughtful management of shared resources, while Mars in Gemini is energizing creativity, understanding, teaching, romance, and entrepreneurial ventures for you, Aquarius. Now, Chiron in Taurus continues healing your relationship with home, belonging, and emotional security, reminding you that, the strongest innovators are often those who have established deep root within themselves. So while Chiron is in Taurus, is going to help you with that as well. So the basket for you, Aquarius, professionally supports technology, education, research, science, innovation, community, leadership, humanitarian work, entrepreneurship, and any field dedicated to improving collective systems. Financially, for you, Aquarius, the energy of this basket from the 19th to the 26th, collaborative opportunities and long-term planning become increasingly important. In matters of relationships, authenticity becomes the foundation upon which lasting connection grows. While spiritually, you're recognizing that your uniqueness has never been separate from your purpose. Your uniqueness has never been separate from your purpose, Aquarius. It has always been one of its clearest expressions. So the energy of this basket reminds you that every meaningful advancement in history once appeared unconventional before it became accepted, as I mentioned to you before. So as this cycle unfolds, trust your vision, communicate your ideas with confidence, and remember that your willingness to think differently may become exactly what helps others imagine new possibilities for themselves. Okay? Y'all lit. Shout out to Aquarius. Pisces, starting you at 1, 2, 3. Pisces, this basket invites you to recognize that imagination becomes most powerful when it finds a way to live within the world rather than remaining separate from it. So between July 19th and the 26th, Pisces, you're stepping into a period where inspiration and embodiment begin working together in ways, that may feel both exciting and deeply grounding. For many Pisces placements, this cycle between the 19th and the 26th is going to bring a growing awareness that you've completed one emotional chapter and are quietly preparing to write another. So you may notice changes surrounding your relationship with money, creativity, communication, family, or your understanding of purpose. The heavens aren't asking you to escape reality. You're being asked to participate in creating a more meaningful one when it comes to reality. Neptune, your modern ruler, with Jupiter being your ancient ruler. Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries carries the Sabian symbol, a triangle with wings. And because Neptune is your modern ruling planet, this symbolism speaks directly to your evolution. Meaning, symbolically, the triangle for you represents everything you've remembered throughout Neptune's long journey through Pisces the past 13 to 14 years. It represents the compassion you've cultivated, the intuition you've trusted, the healing you've experienced, the wisdom you've gained through seasons of surrender and transformation. Because the wings reveal that this inner development is now ready to become something tangible. Your dreams are asking to become plans. Your inspiration is asking to become action. Your vision is asking to become creation. So you may feel called to launch a project, strengthen your financial foundation, develop a new skill, or finally, give form to ideas that have quietly lived within you for years. Neptune reminds you that spiritual insight reaches its fullest expression when it becomes something that improves everyday life. Jupiter, your ancient ruler at 4 degrees of Leo, introduces the Sabian symbol rock formations tower over a deep canyon. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo is bringing growth through your work, daily routines, health, and acts of service. Symbolically, the canyon within that Sabian symbol, the canyon represents every lesson you've mastered through persistence, every responsibility you've honored, every challenge that has strengthened your ability to contribute meaningfully. The towering rock formations remind you that mastery develops through consistent practice rather than isolated moments of inspiration. So this cycle between the 19th and the 26th for you, Pisces, encourages you to recognize that your gifts become increasingly valuable when supported by healthy routines, clear boundaries, and practical organization. Whether you're expanding a business, refining your work, improving your health, or creating new daily habits, Jupiter is asking you to build systems capable of sustaining your vision for years to come. Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini carries the Sabian symbol. A radical magazine displays a sensational front page. And Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini for you, Pisces, is bringing unexpected developments within your home, family, emotional foundation, or living environment. So new conversations may shift your understanding of what home truly means. For some of you, Pisces, placements, you may consider relocating, redesigning your environment, strengthening family relationships, or creating greater emotional freedom within oneself. Because Uranus reminds you that security doesn't require remaining exactly where you've always been. Sometimes stability grows when we're willing to embrace thoughtful change. So Pisces, pay close attention to discussions involving family, property, or long-term plans, because information arriving now may open possibilities you hadn't previously imagined. Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius completes the basket with the Sabian symbol. A council of ancestors is seen implementing the efforts of a young leader. So Pluto at 4 degrees in this symbol invites profound inner transformation because Pluto is working quietly beneath the surface on your consciousness, helping you release subconscious fears, outdated emotional patterns, and beliefs. And beliefs that have quietly limited your growth. So for you, Pisces, because Pluto goes into your sign, not for another good 18 to 20 years. However, Pluto is the planet of generations. So for you specifically, Pisces, the ancestors within this symbol can represent inherited wisdom, spiritual guidance, or the accumulated lessons of your own life experience. So you're discovering that healing doesn't require forgetting the past, Pisces. It requires allowing the wisdom of the past to support your future rather than define it. So there may be massive periods of solitude, meditation, a lot of activity within the dream state. Creativity, quiet reflection may become especially meaningful during this period because your deepest transformations are basically occurring internally before they become visible externally. So the supporting transits reinforce this process for you as well. With Saturn in Aries is encouraging greater responsibility around finances, personal values, and recognizing the practical worth of your gifts. Mercury retrograde in Cancer revisits creativity, romance, joy, and emotional self-expression, which is inviting you to reconnect with passions that may have been temporarily set aside. Venus in Virgo brings important developments within partnerships. Seventh house matters. Encouraging mutual respect, honest, transparent communication, and healthier relationship dynamics. Mars in Gemini energizes your home life and family conversations, which is basically making this an excellent time to address practical matters while remaining patient with differing perspectives. Chiron in Taurus continues healing your partnership with communication, reminding you that your voice deserves to be heard just as much as your compassion deserves to be shared. So professionally, we're going to look at this for you professionally, financially, relationships, and spiritually. 19th to the 26th of July, the energy of the basket. Professionally, this basket supports healing professions, education, counseling, creative work, entrepreneurship. What else we got? Spiritual practices, and any path that combines imagination with practical service. Financially, long-term stability grows through intentional planning rather than uncertainty. In matters of relationships, emotional transparency and honesty become increasingly important while you're spiritually recognizing that intuition reaches its highest expression when it's paired with grounded action. So therefore, the energy of this basket between the 19th and the 26th is reminding you that your dreams were never meant to remain distant possibilities, Pisces. They were always invitations to become an active participant in creating a life that reflects the wisdom you spent years cultivating. So as this cycle unfolds from the 19th to the 26th, Pisces, trust both your vision and your ability to give that vision a lasting form. So now that we've journeyed through one second, let me put this down here. So now that we've journeyed through all 12 signs, let's take a moment to notice something remarkable, because every sign received the same planetary alignment, yet each one received a different invitation. That's one of the greatest gifts astrology offers us. The sky is shared, but our participation is personal. This energy of the BARBAULT basket from the 19th to the 26th, it isn't simply describing a rare arrangement of planets. It's illustrating the way multiple dimensions of life begin moving together. Neptune inspires the vision, Jupiter expands the purpose. Uranus awakens new possibilities. Pluto transforms the foundations upon which the future is built. Saturn asks us to create structure worthy of those possibilities, while Mercury, Venus, Mars, Chiron, the Sun, and the Moon shape the way that transformation is experienced in our everyday lives. So whether you're beginning something entirely new, strengthening what already exists, healing old patterns, stepping into leadership, expanding your creativity, or redefining your relationships. Remember that this cycle between the 19th and the 26th is less about dramatic external events and more about becoming internally aligned with the direction your life is already moving. Sometimes history changes through extraordinary moments that everyone immediately recognizes. Other times, history changes because thousands of people make one courageous decision at a time. The energy of the basket reminds that both forms of change are equally powerful. So as you move through July 19th to the 26th, collective, pay attention to the conversations that linger in your mind, the opportunities that repeatedly appear, the ideas that refuse to leave you, and that quiet inner knowing that continues pointing you toward growth. Because those are often the places where astrology is already coming alive in your own experience. So if this life has helped you understand the collective picture, imagine how much more clarity becomes available when we place these same transits directly onto your personal birth chart. The collective forecast describes the weather, but your natal chart reveals exactly where that weather is unfolding in your own life. And that is the work that I do through my personalized astrology reports, tarot and oracle transmissions, and one-on-one sessions. So that way together we can explore how these planetary cycles interact with your own unique blueprint so you can move through them with greater understanding, intention, and confidence. Gratitude for circulating this time with me. Gratitude for your curiosity, your openness, your willingness to, explore these remarkable celestial patterns. Continue observing the conversations, synchronicities, decisions, and opportunities that unfold throughout this cycle, because the basket is reminding all of us that the future isn't something we eventually arrive at. It's something we participate in creating, one conscious choice at a time. So before we close this live, there's one more perspective that brings this entire conversation together. The collective sky provides the larger pattern. And once again, every individual participates through a completely different doorway. Two people can experience the exact same planetary alignment and arrive at entirely different outcomes because astrology describes potential, while conscious participation determines the expression. So throughout this cycle, once again, pay attention to recurring conversations, repeated themes, unexpected opportunities, meaningful encounters, intuitive insights, and the situations that continue presenting themselves from different directions. Because patterns, rarely announce themselves through a single event. They reveal themselves through repetition. So when something continues returning, it's often revealing an area that is asking for conscious participation. So notice where life feels expansive without force. Notice where, structure is naturally forming. Notice where outdated systems are dissolving. Notice where fresh ideas continue surfacing. Those are often the places where this energy of the basket from the 19th to the 26th is becoming active within your own experience. This is also an excellent cycle for observing the relationship one may have between inspiration and implementation, because vision without movement remains imagination. Structure without vision eventually becomes limitation. The basket energy is demonstrating that both are necessary, because again, Neptune provides the inspiration, Saturn provides the architecture, Uranus introduces the innovation, Pluto removes what no longer sustains future growth, and Jupiter expands whatever has developed strong roots. So as you move through each rotation, especially those of you with the reset your timeline or repeat your life guide, recognize that seemingly small decisions accumulate into entirely different futures. A conversation changes a relationship changes a decision changes a direction changes a lifetime. Major transformations frequently begin through ordinary moments that receive extraordinary attention. Astrology serves as a navigation system rather than a fixed script, because it reveals the currents already moving beneath the surface so you can participate with greater awareness. Clarity and intentional action. So again, the planets describe the environment and your choices determine how you move through that environment. So when this collective forecast is placed directly onto your natal chart, an entirely different level of precision becomes available, because the collective energy explains the atmosphere surrounding everyone. So your birth chart identifies exactly where these transits are activating your personal evolution, your relationships, your career, your finances, your creativity, and long-term direction. That's the purpose behind my personalized astrology reports, the tarot and oracle transmissions, and the one-on-one sessions. So that way together we can examine these planetary cycles through the lens of your unique blueprint, which is going to bring clarity to the timing, the themes, the opportunities, and decisions unfolding within your own chart. So once again, gratitude for sharing this space and exploring these remarkable celestial patterns together. On to our next live. We'll continue building the future that reflects the fullest expression of who you're becoming, because that's what we do over here. Because the future isn't waiting somewhere ahead. It's continuously, taking shape through every rotation, every decision, every conversation, and every moment where awareness becomes action. So with that being said, I'll see y'all on the next live. Ciao. Los quiero mucho.